Welcome to Catholic Mom Talks. Many years ago, Oscar Wilde, he was an author, wrote a book called The Picture of Dorian Gray. Now, The Picture of Dorian Gray has been a classic and made into many movies, but it has a very interesting message for today. And I'd like to kind of just look at that today and go through it. It's about a man. He's extremely arrogant and vain and really into himself. And he has a painting drawn of himself because he's so attracted to his own beauty, right? Extremely vain. But some mysterious thing happens is that as he becomes more and more evil or chooses evil things, the painting starts to become mysteriously distorted. Like his soul is starting to morph into this monster. It's almost like the painting is a reflection of his soul. Now, this is a very interesting concept because even though he remains extremely attractive on the outside, what was happening to him on the inside was creating a monster. Okay, so now he sees the picture and he's horrified and he does not want to look at the picture. So he hides it away in the attic. And this is kind of interesting because this is what we do so much in our culture, right? We hide away or we justify things in ourselves that we don't really want to look at. And I kind of wanted to make a correlation between this story and sin. And sin is often a dirty word. People don't want to hear, oh, you don't want to talk about sin. It's just condemning. It's negative, right? It's negative. But it is very important that we look at sin from a proper perspective. And it's not like what people think. It's not like you're pointing your finger saying you're a bad person. You did something wrong. You're evil. No. That's not at all what the church is saying about sin. Sin is, from the perspective of the church, is what is this action or this choice going to do to your soul? Okay, and it's not the person they're condemning; it's the action. It's this. We could call it sin right now, but whatever the choice is that is a negative choice, is it an evil choice? Is it a choice that's going to do harm? Okay, that's what the church is saying. And the church is saying, if you do these things, it's dangerous, okay? It's dangerous. You need to be aware of it. It's going to do something to your soul, okay? And sin in all its forms can never be good, ever. It can never be justified as a good. And often we see that being justified in our culture very readily, that sin is a good, or it's holy to have a sin, or it's beneficial for your life, right? To give an example, maybe an affair. Oh, I'm not happy with my husband anymore. I want something good for me. I want to be happy. So therefore, I'm going to leave my husband and go have an affair with someone. And then I'm going to justify that and say that this is good for me. It's something that I want, okay? That's a justification of a sin. Now, that sin is not ever going to be okay. The sin is going to cause terrible damage to not only your soul, it's going to cause damage to your relationship with God, and it's going to cause damage to relationship with the church, because when you sin, you hurt people. You hurt people. You hurt your children. You hurt your family. You hurt yourself. It is not a good thing. It's not a good thing. Sin is not a good thing. I mean, there's different kinds of sin. There's like venial sin, which is not that bad. Those are our ordinary things that are our imperfections that we do that are not okay. We make bad decisions. They're mistakes. They're not things that are, horribly evil, okay? There's a difference between venial sin and mortal sin. Mortal sin is a different story. Now, mortal sin is a deliberate choice to pull yourself away from the will of God. You have to know that it's serious. You have to think about it, and then you have to do it anyway, okay? So it's like, I know that this is wrong. I thought about it, and I've done it anyway. Mortal sin can be many different things. It can even be not going to Mass on Sunday. Now, there's a difference if you couldn't go to Mass because you had to work, and there was no way you could get there, or you had to care for your child who's sick, or something of that nature. But if you deliberately don't want to go be with God every week, That's a serious problem in your life, okay? That's why the church looks at it as a serious offense against God. Mortal sin, sleeping around before you're married, fornication, these types of things, okay? These do damage to your soul. Okay, it's not only hurting you, but you're also hurting your neighbor. So sin can never have a good outcome. And what is the consequences of sin? Well, it's just like in the picture of Dorian Gray. Our soul becomes ugly. It becomes ugly. The more we pull away from God, the more we want to be in control, the more we want to be selfish, the more we become a person that we don't want to be. What is the danger of this? Okay, well, the danger is that when we commit serious sin, we no longer are under God's protection. And that is something that I don't think people are even aware of. You know, we're pretty much a self-preservation society. Like, don't smoke; it's going to cause cancer. Okay, don't. If you eat too much and you don't exercise, you're going to have a heart attack. Okay, we're all in it for taking care of our bodies, but we're not in it for taking care of our souls. And we have to think about this for a minute. If we make a decision to deliberately pull our life away from God's will for our life, God's not leaving us, okay? We are leaving God. When we leave God and we choose to sin over God, then we invite the enemy into our life, and now he is the ruler of our life. We've entered into a relationship with the enemy. Now, this is dangerous, okay? It's very, very dangerous. And the reason why is because if you die in that state, you are not going to make it to heaven. Okay, you are not in a right relationship with God here, and you won't be in a right relationship with God after you die. Now, can you turn away from sin and be faithful to the gospel at any minute? Absolutely. You can say, God, I am sorry for my sins. I am sorry, I repent, I'm not going to do this anymore. For the Catholic, you need to go to confession. You need to confess the sin because you need the supernatural graces to be released from the bond of sin. You need to be delivered from the evil. You need to be delivered, and you need to come back into right graces and into a right relationship with God. That confession is a marking place, okay? It's a spot where we know that once we walk away, that past is over, okay? It is all gone. It has been washed away with the mercy of God. His blood has washed it away, and we are in full communion and union with Christ again. It is the marking spot. It is the crossing over. It is the finish line to get to Jesus. Not that we're completely finished, because it's going to be a daily thing, our daily yes to God. We're not just automatically, as Catholics, we are saved by the blood of Christ. Okay, but as Catholics, we believe we have to say yes to God every day. We can't just be saved, okay? God saved us, yes, but we have to accept his mercy. We have to be in a relationship with God. We have to be obedient. It's kind of like Judas. I don't know how to describe it, but Judas in the gospel, okay, he loved Christ, right? He was a follower of Christ. Christ had he was going to give his life for Judas, right? But Judas didn't want God. He did not want God. He had God, but he didn't want him anymore. So with a kiss, he betrayed him. So you have to understand that Peter and Judas committed the same sin. They both turned their back on Christ. Peter denied him 3 times, and Judas handed him over. The difference was Peter repented. He came back. He said, I'm sorry, Lord. I'm sorry. And what did God do? God made him one of the greatest saints of all time. He ran the church. Jesus repaired the relationship. Judas did not repair the relationship. He despaired. And in despair, he handed himself over to the enemy, and that was it. So do you see the two souls, okay? We can commit sin. It's how we respond afterwards. We need to make a full 360-degree turn and go back, because he's waiting. He's waiting for us. And he loves us. And it's not God waiting to condemn us. We are condemning ourselves when we choose to go this way. I don't know if that makes sense to you. Hope I'm not like all over the place, but thanks for listening.